So I went back to Venice post-pandemic, and here's what I saw. Yeah, I know. Looks like the same tragic mess as before the pandemic. Luggage getting dragged up and down the steps. Canals packed with boats, the infrastructure rotting away. Loads of tourist shops and those high-end fashion stores where locals probably never spend their money, and hordes of people from around the world crammed in, making it awful for visitors and locals alike. This is nothing new, but maybe you wonder, why do they allow it to continue? Short answer is that it's a combination of greed, and it's tough to get a political consensus on what to do, and maybe lack of a good roadmap to get them to a smart solution. This last one, a solution for Venice's tourist problem, is what I'm going to attempt to tackle today. I was shooting a documentary in Venice last summer and was granted access to a special smart tourism monitoring room run by the Venetian Police Department. It was a bit like mission control at NASA, giant monitors showing in real time exactly where all the tourists and locals were, based on their mobile phone roaming. Plus, it also showed the movement of all the boats, trains, buses, and traffic coming into and out of Venice. This is the tourism version of Big Brother. Even if it didn't reveal anyone's individual identities, it still felt a bit creepy. But the thing that struck me most was that it was just monitoring. This state-of-the-art multi-million euro investment wasn't able to do a single thing to change the flow of tourism or relieve the regular tourist congestion. It's more like a giant ant farm where they can just watch the tourists move about. The world's most expensive ant farm. I also attended local meetings about tourism when I was there. I heard directly from locals who were sick of tourists taking over their city. They want more supermarkets and pharmacies and dry cleaners and preschools and hardware stores and fewer tourist shops and fewer crowds of tourists. They want their fellow local Venetians to stop renting their flats and moving away, leaving this former global center of trade and a hallmark of culture without a soul. So today, I'm going to take a stab at a solution. Let me start by stating the objective. We want to figure out a smart and fair and seamless way to limit visitors while still allowing locals and their business associates and friends and family to pass through. We want to maximize the visitor spending so that the city can earn more money from fewer visitors without making it a completely elitist place to visit. We want to bring in money to help subsidize the kind of shops and schools that locals need to thrive, and also repair the infrastructure, churches, and other architectural wonders. I'm not going to be able to address every aspect of this solution here, but I can provide some broad strokes that might be a decent starting point. And again, this is just an idea. To find an eventual solution, the city will likely need to try a few approaches before they settle on something that works. And even that will need to stay rather flexible and adjust to the future technologies and the will of the locals and visitors. Okay, here it goes. Now, one of the key things that sets Venice apart is that the entire city is an attraction and has limited entry and exit points, which makes it more similar to a theme park than just about any other destination. I know, it's a cringy thing to say. No one wants to have their city compared to a theme park. But here's the thing, the more the city can think like Disney management behind the scenes, the more authentic the actual city will feel. What? Let me say that again in a slightly different way. If Venice can implement a few smart theme park management techniques, the city will feel less like a theme park. In other words, they should lean into it, take control, and use some clever theme park concepts to improve the city. Let's start with the big one, entry fee. And hear me out before you start heading directly to the comments section. We need a fee that's high enough to really affect visitation behavior and push visitors towards better decisions, from a tourism industry and local Venetian economic perspective. And keep in mind that the largest group of visitors are currently coming from the US, where they are likely paying close to $1,000 for airfare and several $100s a day just to be there. There's currently an entry fee of about €5 in the works, but that's not going to change anyone's behavior. Come on, €5 won't even change the behavior of what you order at a restaurant. if Venice is going to make some real changes, it needs to get serious about the entry fee. For starters, I'd suggest a base rate of something in the neighborhood of 150 euros. Don't freak out. Just to put it in perspective, tickets to Jordan's Petra cost $70 for one day, visitor fees to the country of Bhutan are $200 a day, and Disney costs $190 a day for a minimum of 2 days for a park hopper pass for anyone who's over 10 years old. And that doesn't even include the line skipping Genie Plus and Lightning lanes that cost $20 to $50 a day extra. Now, when I say 150 euros, I'm talking about a fee that would cover about 3 to 5 days. That's the total price, not the price per day. So if you stay one day, even just part of a day, that'll cost you 150 euros. But if you're staying at a hotel for 3 days, that would be just 50 euros per day. Maybe the fee for kids, seniors, students, and Italians is half or even a third of that 150 euro fee. Plus, a certain amount of the tickets, maybe 10-15%, could be given away for free by lottery. You don't want to be a city that's elitist. You want everyone to have the possibility to visit. But to offset that, let's say 10% of the tickets are VIP and cost 350 euros for those affluent people who booked last minute when the normal tickets were sold out. For the standard 150 euro Venice visitor pass, you'd also get something real for your money. There would be free Vaporetto rides. Those are the water buses that connect Venice. And if they're included, more people will likely use them, which will relieve some of the congestion in the small alleyways. And you'd get free entry into nearly all the churches and museums, provided you booked a timed visit in advance, and each visitor could get 3 bookable time slots included with their entry fee each day, perhaps 4 or 5 bookable time slots with a VIP pass. And that would help spread out the visitors and make the crowds at the most popular attractions more manageable. There would also be more free public toilets around the city that would be properly looked after and clean, and good free Wi-Fi throughout the city. The higher ticketing fees would pay for better maintenance of the infrastructure, museums, and churches, plus the ongoing water bus costs, toilets, and subsidizing the rent for many of the kind of shops that locals need to live there. It's very lucrative for locals to rent out their flats and leave, so to discourage that, maybe there could be some kind of a financial incentive, maybe a retirement fund with various options for setup for those who choose to stick around. Plus, we'd need a better and more fair way to regulate the short-term flat rentals for those who want to go that route. But this aspect alone is complex enough for an entirely separate video, so I won't get into the details of that for now. But the higher price ticketing is also designed in such a way to discourage day visitors or convert them into higher spending overnight visitors. Day visitors typically spend almost nothing and take up most of the space, racing around the city to try and see and do everything in a very limited amount of time, often with their own water bottle and a bag lunch. There would also have to be some limits to the amount of visitor tickets sold. With more demand, it allows the entry price to go up. Plus, with fewer tourists, the experience for visitors improves, as well as the life quality for locals. And let's not make the mistake of underestimating the value of that. Now, in peak season, there are about 110,000 tourists visiting historical Venice per day, far exceeding the mere 55,000 residents living there. Now, there's not going to be a magic capacity number that will please everybody, but the city should choose a number that makes sense, at least on some level. For example, the visitor numbers can't exceed the number of locals. Or maybe you could say, if the new ticketing prices bring in 25% more revenue, there should be 25% fewer visitors the following year. There also needs to be a technological component that creates better behavior than the current smart tourism monitoring room. If all visitors, say, needed an app that allows them to make those free bookings at the various churches and museums, then that same app could be used to collect data more economically and also, more importantly, to communicate to all the visitors and make special offers that further spreads them out. Now, imagine you're walking around Venice and suddenly you get a notification through your Venice app about some nearby pop-up events like free wine tasting or free music concert or some special deals at popular restaurants and stores. Those offers could even be targeted at certain times of day, specifically to people who are in the most congested areas, to help lure them into different parts of the city. It's nice to see Venice taking some steps to affect the impact of tourism. Now, they've just put in a new regulation saying that tour groups can't be any larger than 25 people. It's a nice idea, but but I think 25 is still too big. I've been there and seen groups about that size, and it's a mess in those small alleyways. I think something closer to 10 as a maximum size is much likelier to have a positive impact on the city. Or how about no rolling luggage? I've seen firsthand how people dragging luggage around wakes people up early in the morning with noise pollution, kills that serene vibe, and contributes to congestion. So any luggage that isn't carried on your back would need to be delivered to the hotel by a special boat luggage service at an additional cost, which would help create jobs and bring in some additional revenue. There are some tricky bits like business meetings, but there are also some possible workarounds for that. Maybe there could be a really nice business meeting center right at the entry points of the city that's free to use for local merchants. And if a non-Venetian salesperson wants to venture beyond the meeting area for a few hours, they'd have to pay a small fee for a special limited pass that didn't allow access into the museums or churches. And I think it's vital that any entryway and ticketing be done in a seamless manner, perhaps with biometrics for locals passing in and out. NFC could also work for a quick tap-and-go entry, or at least something that feels less like the failed turnstiles that the city tried to implement a few years ago. That was a fiasco that could be solved with better technology. Anyway, there are many more nuanced ideas here, but I just wanted to provide some brush strokes for what a possible solution could begin to look like. I hope that someday Venice begins to turn the tide on tourism and reclaim their precious city so that it someday again resembles that magnificent cultural treasure and a vibrant, authentic city that it deserves to be.